Hi, I'm both Pamela and I are from the Panorama City Neighborhood Council. I am a fellow who's retired from 45 years or so in Panorama City and 30 some years in the land title industry. And I was a business economist. In my middle incarnation, I was a marketing services manager for this national insurance company. And then at the end, I was a data processing IT technical manager. So, but my passion, a lot of this in this session comes from doing that insurance marketing, if you will. Pamela's is a wonderful, and we're here together incidentally to talk partly about the some of the marketing we did in our recent elections, but together we are partners in crime in the Panorama City Rules Committee. So Pamela, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am happily retired from 42 years teaching elementary school music in Los Angeles Unified School District. I taught everywhere from Sylmar to Watts and West area to East. So I pretty much covered the city except never in Harbor area. That's about the only part of the city that I never worked. I also have been active with United Teachers Los Angeles. Even in retirement, I'm still treasurer for UTLA Valley East, and I am a member of UTLA Retired, which thanks to the pandemic, we have not met for 16 months or so, but when they start having meetings in person, I'll be doing that several times a year. So, and I am a member of the Panorama City Neighborhood Council and the chair of the Education Committee. So Tony twisted my arm and I'm here to help convince you folks to see things our way in terms of how to present your neighborhood council and be active in your communities and put your best foot forward.
And I hasten to say, this is also, like so much in the neighborhood council system, what we plan for, hope for, strive for. This is not always what I and our colleagues do. So this is at least just a perspective about how to develop outreach committees, basically. And I know that in the workshop description, it says the outreach function does not consist of buying imprinted merchandise in the hope that it will help people discover our neighborhood council. However, let me say that we are among the neighborhood councils that, yes, we have seen we need $5,000 worth of Trotskys imprinted. And actually from my marketing time, I'm not against advertising specialties. At one time we had the Pink Panther as our copyrighted mascot. And it was a land title insurance company. And I used him, buy real estate today, you'll be in the pink tomorrow. So I am little bendable things to put on your Pink Panthers, to put on your laptop screen. So I'm not against that. The idea though, is that a lot of people say, well, what's outreach? It's just being seen. And actually that's true. It's just being seen, but it's being seen with a purpose. And so I wanted to take the marketing perspective and share that, because a lot of people say, well, that's a business term. That's offensive. Maybe we should, outreach is just whatever it is, they don't like the business term. But even in nonprofit organizations, modern churches, we're finding the need to have people say, who is our target audience? What do we want to achieve with this audience? What message do we want? And most important, what action do we want them to take? So one of the things we need to do is to look at basically two kinds of marketing, I think, that we're doing in neighborhood councils. One is the classic problem of they don't know we exist. And there's always the dream that somebody downtown will run enough TV ads to make certain everyone knows about us. Well, just to make that ad buy for part of a year would use up like 3 years worth of funding for the neighborhood councils and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. There really is very little funding to do an effective citywide big media campaign. And honestly, it's up to us, which means it's up to us with our very limited budgets. So we have to be realistic. But the key thing is to know about you is basically to know a brand like Coca-Cola and what it means. Yes, it's a soft drink and it's supposed to taste good. So yes, they need to know our name, but they need to know as part of that what a neighborhood council, at least in a vague term, is. Anytime you're trying to get someone to remember you, you need to talk to them. You've heard it, I mean, a million times, at least 7 times. They need to see something before it registers in their mind. So anything that is a brand oriented, we exist oriented thing cannot be an effective one-time thing, no matter how much ad you buy. See, we bought that and they just still don't know about us. No, you have to do it consistently every month or every 2 months for a significant period. And that's how cumulatively people know we exist. The other kind of marketing we have is we have a town hall coming up. We need to get people at this town hall who are interested in whatever subject that is. Okay, so who are those people? If it's a physical town hall, please Lord, but you know, they have to be local because you're not going to advertise in San Pedro to come to Panorama City. So you have to basically decide who you're trying to reach, what the subject of the town hall is, or just provide support, which is truly brand advertising support for an event you're putting on. Maybe we're putting on a health and safety fair. And yes, we do want to have shopping bags that people take home, goodies that they receive from fair participants. Well, that's okay. And the shopping bag has our name on it. That's a perfectly legitimate use of advertising specialties, particularly if it's in conjunction with a program we are doing. So I think that that's one of the keys that's important. Is there are a lot of neighborhood councils that unfortunately there's something going on, I think right now on neighborhood purposes grants, where they just give all their money away to other people. But we give our money away to other people, but we actually like to tie it when possible to something we're doing so that we're supporting people seeing us active in the community. And before I go into traditional advertising, let me just comment on that, seeing us active in the community. Years and years ago, I'm not a young person, as you can see by the gray hair, there was a book called Management by Walking Around, which was addressed to managers, typically middle managers. It said, get off your seat in your office and go walk around the factory floor, see what's going on in your business. Well, that's kind of applies to us. Management by walking around, particularly in neighborhoods, means the neighborhood council is not about our little meeting room once a month. I mean, go out and see what's going on. Go to other people's meetings. Go to town halls on other issues. I know I'm active in a lot of social service issues that have to do with our low income, largely minority neighborhood, and a lot of challenges, especially with kids and young families. So, but management by walking around, and when you do, if you have a t-shirt or a polo shirt or whatever, or cap or anything that says neighborhood council, it always helps. And if you get your people who are friends who are not on the board, but participating in committees, and this is where committees are really helpful. You get people besides neighborhood councils that are numerically stronger people to have with you. And they all walk around carrying the t-shirt. I'm like, if you have a cleanup and everybody's wearing a XYZ neighborhood council t-shirt and people drive by and they say, oh, there must be a neighborhood council. Make sure it's big. Don't make it a little, because you have to see it from a car. So, but that's the kind of thing where being seen in the neighborhood ends up making them think we must be a cast of thousands when it's only 15 or 20 on the board. Plus, hopefully, if we're lucky, the same number of people who are involved with us in other things, but just don't want to put up with the board meetings. So one of the key things that you can do that is within our budget is a thing called Every Door Direct. And there's another way to do it, like with Walking Man, but one of the classic ways, particularly with more and more apartments that are locked to us. You can't get to the mailbox, you can't get to the door. And so therefore you can rely on the United States Postal Service to actually get something in the mailbox. Is a US Postal Service program called Every Door Direct. You'll see it on things that come in your door. It says EDDM. And you basically pay to do the printing, and then you pay for the postage. It's about the same amount each. It ends up costing maybe 40 cents a piece, 20 cents for postage, 20 cents for the mailer. And you can have like half a letter size or full letters, 8x10 mailer. And you can have that in two sides in color with pictures, English, Spanish, whatever you want. And that's sort of a message about what you're doing, or anything, any story you want to put on for your community. Now, when we had the Panorama City Neighborhood Council Rules Committee, where Pamela and I worked together, we were charged with doing election outreach. We had a few $1,000s to do it. So obviously we couldn't reach the entire 80,000 people in Panorama City. It's a relatively large city, but we did use Every Door Direct, and I think we ended up coming up with a lot of candidates. So maybe Pam, could you describe what we did that? She did most of the statistics to keep track of the carrier routes. So it's all yours.
Yes, well, I took the map that we have of our neighborhoods. We've divided Panorama City into 5 sections, and we created kind of an overlay section that kind of travels through all of the others. We invented a business district. So then I went to the USPS website and figured out which carrier routes were in which of the now 6 districts, the 5 real Panorama City neighborhood districts and the overlay business district. And we targeted, in this case, for this election, the regions that had the least representation. We wanted to try to increase their representation on our council. So we, and again, with the limited funding, so we targeted 2 areas plus the business district, because again, there's overlap there. So we were able to hit really all parts of the district, at least somewhat, and thoroughly the 2 parts that we needed representation from. And we were able to create the mailing and get it distributed under budget. And we were able to accomplish our goal. We got more candidates, and particularly from those areas that we were missing, and have now welcomed them onto our council.
And actually, and I see your question, Suri. We're going to get to it, and also I'm asking our room monitor to enable at least outbound chat from Pam and I, so that we can send everyone a response to anything that you may put in chat. You can send it to us, but unfortunately, everyone chat is turned off, but we should at least be able to talk to you. And then also, I do see that chat save is enabled. So anything that we put intact, at least for me, if you are on desktop, there would be 3 little dots at the lower right-hand corner of the chat box, which you get by clicking chat at the bottom of your screen. And that will allow you to save whatever's put in the chat to desktop, assuming I have anything useful. But if you're on a mobile, which includes tablets, you won't have that facility. I just wanted to mention that. But at the moment, I can't respond to you in chat. So we do have some more present. Well, actually, let's take advantage of this instead of going on to, targeted marketing or this, that, or the other. Let's take advantage of having a conversation, because these workshops are so short and we've lost 5 minutes at the end anyway, in order to allow people 10 minutes time to log in early for the next session. So we actually need to end, I think, at 1:20 in terms of our content. So who did I see's hand up before that I can't respond to in chat? I don't see a hand up anymore. Someone had their hand up. Who wanted to ask a question?
It's Saray Rogers.
Yes,
Rogers.
yes, yes,
Yes. Hi.
yes.
Thank you. Hey, thank you all. I really just wanted to ask you something, Sarah, on the tail end.
We
You're
can't-
muted. You muted yourself by mistake. Maybe.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I'm in between work and whatnot, so I'm just getting situated. But anyway, let me introduce myself. I'm in the neighborhood council of Empowerment Congress Central, and I was just appointed a position as a at-large representative, and I'm on the budget committee and soon to be education committee because my background is in music teaching and coaching soccer. So, thank you. Okay, yeah, I sing and play piano. So I went to Dominguez Hills, taught by Dr. Sally Echito. And I'm just honestly, that's why I joined neighborhood council, to really give back and educate my community. I have a lot of experience myself. I was a Biden delegate last year. And I guess that's how I found out about the neighborhood councils, and just, working my way up from the California Democratic Party to various foundations. And I worked on various campaigns, Democratic, Republican, third party. I'm all about getting the job done, and I'm really seeing the nuances between the neighborhood councils. And I was actually going to join another one. And I was trying to become the president for Park Mesa Heights. Lost that. The lady who was in there won again. And the two other people that I was running against recommended me to be a part of Empowerment Congress Central. And here I am. So, I have a wide range of skills, and there's various ways, Mr. Tony, I can go about marketing. As a musician, I can reach out to the orchestras. I can go door to door, but
This is the thing.
I guess
This is the thing. This is.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No. I interrupted you when you were saying this is my question. I apologize.
Well, yeah, no, I think you felt my energy. I think that's what it is. It's like we're all, and I've been to a couple of workshops today, and I'm going to ask the same question. And you sound like you got a ton of experience. I'm just like, how there's various ways you can skin a cat, right? Is the old saying, right? And I'm just in the position now to, all politics aside, how can we bring together the whole neighborhood councils to actually get people to know who we are? And I know it's cliche, but I correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a New York City neighborhood council? Is there a Chicago neighborhood council? Texas? We should be out there, and we should be demanding our budget is my point,
But we have,
and that includes media.
we have the largest system nationwide. I think that Ventura has a little neighborhood council kind of a system too. So we have colleagues in the state who are also limited by, our rules on having to meet virtually and so on. But the key thing, I'm being very honest, first of all, in a structured environment, and that's what this is, it is a city agency run by city volunteers. Access to the budget and access to planning for things like outreach, marketing, are going to be structured within the council, and it's going to be typically a committee. You don't have to be a board member to be on committees. This is why I think committees are so important to actually doing what you're saying, Saray, because I hear you and I understand one of the problems is you go to the board meeting And a lot of times we look around and we don't see anybody who looks like us. So this is an issue. And then you can't say anything because you only get 1 minute public comment. The board meeting is the most off-putting way to engage the public. The committees are the most welcoming place. And we try and work in Panorama City as much as possible without having chaos to treat that as sort of a town hall kind of thing. There are not that many people in the room. We encourage a conversation with people who come. We can't do that at the board meeting because otherwise we'd never get our work done. But committees is a key. And the reason it's a key is, Ray, you can bring your friends. If you go to this committee and they're all people who are 79 years old with gray hair like Tony, you can bring people who don't look like Tony. And the more, and the commit, since the committee is where all the ideas start for what the board ends up getting proposed to do, this is a way when you can start beginning to build bridges, if you see where I'm coming from. And if unfortunately you've got 15 or 20 people who are old white men, I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't want to go into the cliche, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we're a diverse community. It's a majority Latino community. We have the second largest Filipino concentration in LA outside of the area around Fakla downtown. And we used to have a much larger African-American community because Pacoima, just next to us, where Patrice Colores was from, it used to have racial covenants. Not that they were ever legal in my era, but nevertheless they were. But we are a lot of families in Pacoima right next to me, and a lot of people live in Panorama City too, are actually linked up with some of the traditional churches and the families in South Los Angeles. So, I mean, we have a very rich, diverse history in the Northeast Valley, but we don't have an awful lot of people in our meetings that look like our community enough, if you see where I'm coming from. One of the things that's really,
Yes, sir. And
one of the things that's really,
yeah, that's spot on because, and just to give you a little background on me and why I got involved in the neighborhood council I'm in now, Empowerment Congress Central. My grandfather I'm a stakeholder in my grandfather's business. He's a carpenter and a upholsterer, been in business for 40 years. And he immigrated here. And he, started his business up from scratch. And, I'm happy, but, he wants to see some results too. And, and I guess I mentioned that because this immigration issue is, I didn't see that coming. I don't think anyone did. But, I'm in the position now to think critically, and not just for me, but how are we going to advance, and there are, that's a great example actually, because immigrants can vote on neighborhood council. I think Park Mesa Heights is literally the only neighborhood council where you have to vote or show ID to vote. I don't know about Empowerment Congress Central, but I was actually trying to use that as a hook to get people to vote. They don't care what country you're from if you have an ID, but actually Park Mesa Heights does require ID. But, I know that that's the way, is to get people to actually vote. But
take it back to marketing though. Take it back to marketing though. I think that
and in Empowerment Congress, they don't even use their social media. They haven't used it since 2012.
Well, but don't worry. Our objective is to go back out there and remember everything. Nothing happens to you to sell something. And some of the things we have to do is to sell our board members, or if we're not on the board, our neighborhood colleagues on doing some of this stuff. But this is part of the question, is who is my audience? And it's really important that immigrant communities are part of my audience. Certainly in Panorama City, we have a large number of monolingual Spanish speakers. They're part of our audience. Same in North Hills East, where I was active I was president for a while actually. And we made it a point of having bi-directional board meetings so that we only had interpreters who would switch from English to Spanish so that if you speak Spanish and I speak English, we can have a direct conversation and you don't feel like you're isolated behind a translator wall. There are a lot of ways that we need to operate in order to, and also another thing, and it's completely off topic, I realize, but I'm not so sure that we have, when we're talking about, identities and what's important. I think that one of the key identities is actually cultural, and there's a difference, like in the African American community, from a lot of immigrant folks and a lot of people who are traditional long-term American descendants folks, and there are cultural differences there, and particularly like with Nigerians. So, I mean, we have to really be aware of who we all are as individuals and embrace this diversity so that we can begin to think about it when we do our marketing communications and be sensitive to it, including the photos we use. And this is one of the things where we could use a lot of youth is to go around taking what they call in video B-roll, which is video footage of just people at your shopping mall or the street, or walking out up and down the street. And if it's a diverse street, it's wonderful. But this kind of video footage that can be used, or still pictures, kids could bring this to us and build our library so that when we tell a story, we have from our own communities pictures and videos, if we do them, that look like our community, that this is our community and we can properly represent it instead of having Tony standing out there in front of a bush reading a monologue. So I think that part of this is marketing communications is doing this for your audience. This is not about for ourselves. We're trying to reach someone, and the only charter obligation we have is to engage more people with government. And we all came here not knowing a thing about how the city worked. Now we're all horrified when we discover how it does work. But what we need to take everybody who comes to our meeting and treat them with the same courtesy and respect that we hoped we had when we first came, and help us all get to the same point of understanding they don't necessarily always want us to speak up on their issues. So anyway, do we have any other questions in the room? I can't see everybody's hands.
Thank you.
So, and please feel free to, speak up if you have some points or concerns or anything like that, because what this is about is your neighborhood council's communications needs. It's not going to be the same as Pam's and mine. And I can tell you, actually, these things work. Let me take an example here. When my friend Perla Lagunas and I were in North Hills East, which is over by Galpin Ford, it's almost entirely Latino. It's got the same population density as Pico Union downtown. And when we used in the prior election, the every door direct thing, I mean, this is in today's world, this is not the right thing to do, Tony and Perla, but we decided to send the mailers to all of the rich people, including the Anglos who are like north of Nordhoff in the single family homes, because we thought, well, they're the people most likely to run for the neighborhood council. Well, guess what happened? Proving that karma is real. All the people in the single family homes who hated the fact that Perla and Tony and a lot of the other Latinos on the council, we had been approving housing right and left that all the single family homeowners disapproved of. And so I got voted off the board. So this is, karma does bite. So when we did, Pamela and I did this in Panorama City, we did it the right way. This was the last election. And we picked the center west and the southwest areas, which were our most diverse areas, filled with most of our people who don't participate. And indeed, that's why we're particularly proud that we got so many candidates from those areas. Also terribly frustrated that the city clerk did so little follow-up that large numbers of those people never made it to candidate because they never kept reminders about you have to get your documentation in. But I'm just saying that here's two examples of it works. We know that Every Door Direct got people to come. And in both cases, including where Tony did the bad targeting. And in Panorama City, Pamela and Tony did the right targeting. This is just an example of saying who's your audience because this tool works. I just wanted to share that because it's part of the diversity conversation we're having. I don't see any more hands up.
There's a
Otherwise-
question in the chat,
Oh,
Tony,
I'm sorry.
how you do direct marketing. How does it work?
Well, direct mail is typically, the word direct is typically used for direct mail. Direct marketing is also, of course, personal selling. Nothing happens till you sell something. And in the old days, this is pre-egalitarianism, my paycheck from Safeco Insurance used to say, every Safeco employee is a Safeco salesman. Today, of course, it would say salesperson. But that's true, that you talking to people personally is our best method of communication. It doesn't take 7 advertising views. It takes maybe 1 or 2 from Fanny or Pamela or Tony personal contacts, and then they know who we are and what we do. So actually, again, management by walking around, getting, and look at another thing. We have huge, there's lots of kids. We have huge numbers of schools, and all the principals have coffee with the principal. You just go down there and you bring some coffee from Starbucks and some Latino sweetbreads, and she welcomes you and lets you talk to the room. Well, these are all the families in the neighborhood. What better way to connect? So just going to the coffee with the principal and getting a few minutes there makes you visible, and you're basically getting the support of the local principal. So you've got someone acknowledging that you're actually real and mean something. Taking advantage of these in-person contacts should be part of your conscious marketing program. And when you go to an outreach committee, putting together these conscious programs, it's not that you're taking advantage of anybody or you're going out like they're like a vacuum salesman. No, but you're going out there trying to reach as many people who you think are like you, who have the same community concerns that you have, and explain to them how they can join with the neighborhood council to address those concerns. But yes, absolutely. And if I didn't get your question about direct marketing, please chime in and correct me.
The process for Every Door Direct.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you just look up USPS EDDM on Google, there will be a whole bunch of private companies. There will also be the official USPS service. And what it does is it lists it has a map. You can do it by geographically. It will list every carrier route in a neighborhood. And that's for the convenience of the postal service. So it doesn't always match neighborhood council boundaries. And then those carrier routes are in block groups, I forget what they call it, and those are divided in, and those go across boundaries. So you have to buy a single carrier route. That means all addresses. If it's 700 addresses, you have to pay for 700 addresses. If it's 1,200, you have to pay for 1,200. It's 500, same thing. And you have a chance to not do businesses, forget it. Businesses are a tiny percentage. Always check businesses. It's only a few extra dozen. But you then get a list of how many households there are in that carrier route. One up and down the street, back and forth, both sides of the street, whatever the route is. And that will tell you how much you have to pay for and print. So you do a little bit of extra, and then you must bundle it in reasonable sections, like 20 bundles of 20 or whatever, and deliver it to the bulk section of the post office. But the best thing is to get a postal instant press or some local printer who is familiar with this service, not somebody who's never done it before, and have them incorporate the bundling and delivery to the post office in your printing job. So you go to them, you say, we want this carrier route. Here's our copy, both sides for the flyer of this size. I want the total package cost, and that will include postage. And then you have to pay them in advance because it's cash postage. It's their cash that you put out there. So we have to deal with NC funding on that issue, but it's, you know, you're paying an invoice, and basically I've never had a problem getting that paid. But then that's how you actually do it, is you find someone and you shop around, because some people are more expensive than others. Typically, if they haven't done it before, they don't know, and so they mark it up too much. Pam and we had to switch people from the ones I'd used in North Hills East because it got bought out, the prices went up, and we found a wonderful minority-owned neighborhood. Actually, it's up in Granada Hills somewhere. Great service from them. And so we were able to buy semi-locally and get it done for less. But that is the process from beginning to end. You go and find the routes, you look at your boundaries, you know your neighborhoods, which people in which neighborhoods do you want to fit. And for example, even in Panorama City, for 80,000 people, we ended up with our 5 geographic voting districts, plus, as Pam mentioned, the central core business district. And then we figured, well, if we do one of these every 2 months, we can get everybody in Panorama City to get 1 mailer a year about the neighborhood council. Now, have we actually done this or budgeted it? No, but this is an example of how you can spread out your expenditures throughout the year and end up with frequent, repetitive, everybody gets the announcement.
So the question about cost, we had a budget of 15,000 and we were able to cover 3, the business district and 2 of our 5 neighborhoods for under 15,000. So,
And just for,
and it was a large number of carrier routes for each section. So we did pretty well. And again, it depends on the business with which you work, because as Tony said, we found a business that was willing to do the bundling and delivering to the post office and all of that. All we had to do was provide the copy and which carrier routes we wanted covered. So we did that homework, and then the business took it from there, and we covered the 3 of the 6 districts for under 15,000.
Thank you. We're getting messages from Mario that we're out of time here. It's about 1:20. So I want to thank everybody for participating. It's absolutely wonderful you came. You can save the chat by hitting the 3 little dots in the lower right-hand corner. Again, only if you're on desktop. But we really appreciate your coming and your time. We've got another session actually that I'm doing, and I think Pam afterward, called Power Beyond the CIS, and we're going to talk about more of these ways to engage the community beyond simply becoming a debating society at the monthly annual meeting. So if you have any interest, you can check in on that one, and thank you very much for coming.